Everyone, thanks for joining this evening to the All Things REI podcast. We got myself, Tom McCormick, local real estate investor here on Windsor, Ontario, and in the U.S. And we got special guests, and you've probably heard of her before because we had a previous in-person property walkthrough meetup to tour one of her flips. And she has done many flips actually in Windsor previously, and she is one of the owners, or actually the founder of Marda Management, one of the biggest real estate management companies, I think, in Windsor entirely. So, Marla, without further ado, how about you introduce yourself to the people, and then we'll get into it.
Thank you so much, Tom. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. My name is Marla Coffin. I'm the CEO and founder of Winfield Victoria Holdings. We are a company that owns a couple of property management businesses, a condo management company, and a rental management company here in the Windsor-Essex region. And over the course of the last 15 years, since we founded our core business, Marda Management, we've really worked diligently to vertically integrate a number of businesses, like a bookkeeping business, a lawn and snow removal company, a building material supply company, things of that nature, just to create ease for operations and efficiency within our core businesses. So that's just a little bit about me.
Oh, that's fantastic. I know you've done a lot of things and you continue to build more business. I think the snow removal one's the most recent that you're trying to gear up for this winter.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Go.
What kind of motivates you, I guess, now that you've made all these businesses, to continue to make more or to achieve more success? What kind of is that internal drive there?
Well, first of all, I think that, everybody's driven by a different why, if you will. And, we all have our reasons, but I will tell you that certainly the adrenaline, the winning, working toward helping others, helping the Windsor community, giving back as a community member. I am a board member of a subcommittee at the hospital, at Hotel du Hospital. I do work with the Maycourt Group, a number of different organizations locally, charitable nonprofits, things of that nature. So, for me, it really is the continued growth. You never get to a point where you're just finished growing. That's not realistic, right? We all want to try to continue to learn and evolve. And as we go through different phases of these businesses, of the vertical integration that I talked about, we are consistently presented with new opportunities to be able to learn and grow. So for us, as we can increase the efficiency of the businesses we already have, as we can continue to partner with new people, new creatives, things like that, it really just helps make us stronger and allows us to make other people stronger. And to me, that's a perfect win-win for sure.
Absolutely. I like what you said too. You always have to have a growth mindset and always be expanding. If you stop, then you're probably dead. Like, you have to always be doing something.
Forward.
Yeah.
You're going forward or you're going backward. You're not
Exactly.
staying the same. So, you got to make that choice for yourself.
Yeah, constantly be evolving. And I know you've been helping me with that too, just continuing to progress forward and not get stuck in a rut or in a downward spiral. You just keep moving forward and keep your eyes on the prize. So I can really appreciate that, what you said.
We're not doing this much work to stay the same. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I guess for those of you that might not know, Marla actually owns a lot of like real estate and top of the businesses. So since this is more of like a real estate podcast specifically, like that, we love talking about business as well, because it goes hand in hand. But what kind of real estate do you like to personally own, I guess? Because we know you manage a lot of units yourself, but what's kind of in your portfolio? What kind of properties do you look for? Has that changed over the years from when you started out to now?
Sure. So our sweet spot is multifamily for personal ownership. So we own around 100 multifamily units. I love multifamily. I think there's greater efficiency in multifamily personally. One roof to replace, one lawn to cut, sort of thing.
Toilets.
So we do really like multifamily. We own, a myriad of things from 11 units to 25 units per property, and we find great efficiencies in that. So that's kind of our sweet spot. We also own some single family houses. We own 10 or 11 of them right now. So, that is something that had kind of evolved out of flipping, which we can talk about as well. But definitely my preference is multifamily. Now, we do own a little bit of commercial because the Marda building is in a commercial property that we rent partial to outside businesses. So that's been interesting because commercial is a little bit of a different ballgame than residential for sure. And we did dabble in the student market I'm going to say 7 or 8 years ago. It's been a little while. We acquired a single family residence on Sandwich Street that had no kitchen. It was in
No
really
kitchen,
rough
really?
condition.
How's the house not have a
Yeah,
kitchen?
pretty tough. Yeah, it was a very interesting place. And so we renovated it literally top to bottom. We developed the loft. We put a two-bedroom suite ADU in the basement. We did quite a bit of work to it, and that was very favorable for us in terms of cash flow and general appreciation of the property. We bought it at a good time. We sold it at a good time. But ultimately, when we sold it, we used that money to invest into another multifamily property. So we kind of dabbled in it and veered back to multifamily. It's just kind of our comfort zone. Although we do have a number of property owners within our Marda portfolio who own everything from single family houses to 40 and 50 unit buildings, properties with elevators, commercial properties, student properties, student by the room rentals, all of this sort of thing. So there's definitely a myriad of strategies that you can use. I just find multifamily to be my comfort zone.
That makes sense. Kind of multifamily can be more of a one-stop shop, especially when you're vertically integrated. It's easier to get your crews in and out as opposed to getting
Yep.
them to 12 different properties at once. Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I guess where any specific areas in Windsor like you like to target? Because I know you have a nice one on, I think it's Niagara.
Yeah.
Those two sixplexes.
Yeah.
For people that might not know kind of Windsor, like what are good areas and bad areas that you prefer?
Yeah. Fair enough. So a couple things. So first of all, we developed a few years ago now. We developed a what we call an area rating map. And what we did with that area rating map was we essentially looked at the entire city. And what we did with it was we determined what we felt each neighborhood where the primary rentals are would be rated. So we rated it on a scale of like A, B, C, D, D minus. D minus properties we generally don't, or excuse me, D minus neighborhoods we generally don't manage in. We find them to be in areas that maybe have a lot of boarded up vacant properties. It can be really challenging to rent well qualified tenants in those neighborhoods. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, we do manage in all the other areas. And naturally, of course, A or A plus neighborhoods, it's also a lot more concentrated in terms of being owner occupied as opposed to rentals. So I will, if you want to share host status, Tom, I can actually share my screen and just show the group.
Sure, yeah, we can do that if
Yeah.
I go
Um,
here.
we can certainly slide. You can DM, and I'm more than happy to send them out to anyone that's interested. It can prove very beneficial, especially if you're not in Windsor. If you're not local to the Windsor area, you don't necessarily know the ins and outs of benefits of different neighborhoods. A lot of people come into our region looking to buy investment property or rental property, and a lot of times they think, oh, I don't want a D neighborhood and I definitely want an A neighborhood.
Mm,
But what they don't necessarily realize that if you target an A neighborhood in particular or an A plus neighborhood, then as a result of that, you're paying quite a premium because these are neighborhoods that are heavily owner occupied. And
right.
a lot of times the numbers then just don't necessarily make sense.
Mm,
So I'll share my screen here just so people can have a little bit of an understanding of, what I'm referring to. So here you can see basically just that our area rating map is here. It's Windsor, Essex. So on the far right, you've got Tecumseh, which is A plus. You've got South Windsor on the bottom, which is an A. You've got LaSalle on the west side or far west side, which is an A plus. And then you've got a little bit more niche, a little bit smaller neighborhoods that are quartered off. And I would say this is where 90% of Windsor's rental property are.
mm-hmm.
So in this central zone on the east, all the way to Greater Sandwich on the west, that's where 90% of the rental properties are. So we've tried to be a little bit more niche about quartering off, and rating those different areas. And then we have a legend on the left. So definitely, if that's beneficial to anyone, we'd be more than happy. Just shoot me a DM. I'm more than happy to send
That's
it out to people.
that's very cool actually having the whole heat map, kind of that road map.
It
I'd
helps,
love to
right?
have that if I was out of town. That's so handy to have.
Yeah, it gives guidance. We found a lot of times we were getting calls from out of town clients saying, hey, I bought this property. I'd love for you to manage it. How much can I get in rent? And then they'd say it's on Glengarry. And we'd be like, oh, this is the situation, kind of giving them a little bit of color. And they'd be absolutely shocked that they can't get $2,500 in rent or whatever outrageous number they may have needed in order to fulfill their expenses, especially with high interest rates right now. Um, and they're typically pretty surprised to hear that that's not very viable.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's been very handy for us to be able to use this area rating map, and it just gives people a little bit of a guide. That's all. And it doesn't mean don't buy here or don't buy there, but buy informed. Be aware, because obviously in areas that are maybe a little bit less desirable, you're not going to get grade A rents, right? You
Right.
can't buy in a D neighborhood and get A rent. That those don't go together. So it's really all just about managing expectations, to be honest with you.
Mm. Yeah, that's tough to kind of sell your customer on that, saying and actually turning down business, saying no. But it's in the long run,
Yeah.
it's better, more beneficial for you to less headaches in the long run to manage tenants.
I I'd rather just be realistic with them. If someone calls us and says, "Hey, what can I get in rent?" We'll give them our assessment. And what I think a lot of people don't realize is Marta manages 9.6% of Windsor's rental market, almost 10%. So
Wow.
we have a pretty good understanding of what things rent for. Because just to put this into perspective, almost 50% of Windsor rental market is self-managed.
Wow.
And
I
then
didn't
we
actually know
have
that
about
stat. That's crazy.
yeah,
Wow.
and then we have almost 10% of the other 50% or of the greater number. So I just think that it's really important for people to understand that when we give them data,
Hmm.
it's based on hard numbers. It's not based on a feeling. It's not based on this one property. It's not based on this situation from this one time. We're actually running numbers and telling them statistically a 3 bedroom, 1 bathroom in that neighborhood in the last 6 months rents for this amount of money. And obviously there can be variables like finished basements and pools and factors that can
For
contribute
sure.
to rent fluctuation. But when owners respond, or potential owners, and say, I saw on Kijiji that you can get 3,200. No, you can't. Maybe someone posted it on
Yeah,
Kijiji
they
for
were hoping for
3,200
that
or
much,
something
but
similar.
yeah.
Yeah, but is it apples to apples? Is it in a similar neighborhood? And are they actually going to get that? It's like suggesting what real estate is being listed for on the open market. That doesn't mean that's what it's selling for. So
Hmm.
unfortunately, in the rental market, you don't have the insight of what it actually rented for. You only have the insight of what it is listed for. Whereas when at least we look at our data, we can provide a little bit of a wider understanding of the actual rental rates.
Right.
And
Because you got
certainly
live
our
data, like it's right there at your fingertips.
absolutely. And we try to be really transparent about that. We are more than happy to share our data. It's not something we hide. It's a benefit. So we want to share that benefit with every single landlord in Windsor if we could.
I like that. Yeah, you got to keep giving, and then you can receive much better too.
Yep.
Um, so now that you have such a big cap in Windsor, what kind of got you to that stage? I'm genuinely curious. What kind of makes you, do you think, stand out from other property managers, and makes you continue to be successful in growing?
Sure. So first and foremost, I think our culture at our company and the core values that we embody within Marda Management, which is our core
Mm.
business, which is the rental management company, really helps set us apart. So our core values are, one is frictionless customer experience. It's very difficult to achieve sometimes, especially because the property manager is often kind of the middleman between the tenant and the property owner.
Right.
When repairs need to be made and things of that nature, it's not our money. So sometimes it's a little bit difficult, but we're always striving for frictionless customer experience. And that could be applicable in the tenant property manager relationship or in the owner property manager relationship. We're really looking and aiming for a frictionless experience. And by the way, also with vendors, that's the other thing,
Mm.
that we have a lot of vendor relationships too. So, number one is a frictionless experience.
Does that,
Number two is growth.
okay. So go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, Tom, you had a question. Go
No,
ahead.
I was just curious. Does that mean when you say frictionless, does that also mean just always communicating, or does that mean just having systems
In
in
every
place like
way,
online portals?
we're trying to make it easy. That's the bottom line. We're trying not to cause friction. And like I said, that can be really difficult, especially with our tenant base sometimes, because they don't necessarily understand that it's, it's not our bottom line. Our landlord still has to pay their mortgage. So the fact that they feel like they can withhold rent because there's a branch hanging in their yard or, whatever the case may be, or
Right.
sometimes even much more legitimate concerns than that. I mentioned something that might be a little bit maybe silly, but there are lots of legitimate things that sometimes renters don't understand take time.
Mm.
So, for example, someone has no hot water, we can call someone out, but if it's not an easy fix, we now have to get quotes for a tank replacement or, talk to Reliance about a rental or Enercare. We have to go back to the property owner to get approval on how the property owner wants to proceed. Then we have to execute and schedule. That can take days,
Oh,
and that
definitely.
sucks because that means that tenant doesn't have hot water,
Hmm.
and that's brutal. We don't want to leave our tenants with no
Yeah, no
hot
one wants
water.
cold showers unless
Unfortunately,
you're like David Goggins or something stupid. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but it still means they have to go without it for
Yeah.
that period of time. And sometimes they think that, that's us that have done that to
Hmm.
them. And that causes unnecessary friction when the truth is that sometimes, these things do just take time.
Right.
Sometimes owners are less responsive than we'd like them to be. If we're under the impression that an owner wants to replace their hot water tank and not rent it, they want to buy it, we're not going to pull the trigger on a $2,000 expense or a $1,500 expense without approval.
Hmm.
That's not our like we can't do that without authorization, right? So, yeah, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to achieve that frictionless experience, but we certainly work diligently to do it in any way that we possibly can.
Hmm.
Our second core value is growth, and that's the growth of our team. That's the growth of our property owners. And that's, of course, also the growth of our business. And then number three, we ask our team to bring their authentic selves to work every day to embody a culture, excuse me, a culture that really is cohesive to meeting our goals. And finally, our last core value is speed. We think, act, and respond quickly, period. In today's era, it's just a reality that you need to get back to people quickly. That's not always an easy feat. It's not always attainable, but for the most part, we're pretty darn good at it.
Hmm.
We do have a company-wide median response time of 28 minutes on email.
Oh, wow.
We're really proud of that. Yeah,
That's
we're really proud of
impressive.
that. We track it very closely. And that doesn't mean that every single person hears back from us within 28 minutes, but it does mean that we are actively tracking this metric and we are consistently working to ensure that we are responding to people in an appropriate and timely fashion.
Hmm.
Because with today's technology, people just expect to hear back quickly. It used to be like 48-hour expectation, then it was a 24-hour expectation.
Yeah, the
Now
window's
people are like,
shortening.
how come I haven't heard from you? Yeah, and it's like, well, you sent me an email 18 minutes ago. So there's a myriad of reasons why, but essentially we think it helps really achieve the other core values that we have, a
Hmm.
frictionless customer experience,
That's a good
growth,
point.
and good culture, if we can respond to people quickly.
Mm. I have noticed actually, just anecdotally, the more successful the person, generally, the better they are at getting back to you. Assuming you're
Yeah,
on their radar too. Like if you're nobody, then or if they don't know you, maybe
totally.
it's tougher. But if they
Sure.
know you, they're generally
Yeah,
good
if you're in their
to
ether, for
reach out
sure.
quickly, more quickly. Even like texting you, I realize, oh wow, I need to personally get better at always getting back to people
Sure.
on time. So it's an interesting metric to track. I don't think a lot of people even really consider that. But
Yeah, it,
yeah.
it is important, honestly, and it certainly sets us apart from many of our competitors. One of the other things is really our own innovation.
Hmm.
So over the years, we've really looked at, what can we do to better the environment and circumstance for our client, which is primarily our property owners. So a few years ago, just to kind of give you an example of one of the
Yeah.
things we've done, we noticed that we were very pleased with our hourly maintenance rate. So we conduct a lot of internal maintenance. So we have about 10 maintenance technicians that work for Marda
Hmm.
who do things like basic plumbing, basic electrical, painting, countertops, all these sorts of smaller jobs, caulking, etc. But what we noticed is that while the hourly rate we were charging our client base was very favorable, things were taking a little bit longer than we would like to see to actually get completed. So we did a bit of a study and we actually found out that we were spending like 90 hours a week as a company going to and from Home Depot,
Just
just
traveling.
in travel time.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Wow.
And obviously that's not conducive or efficient for anyone.
Not at all.
Um, so in a true effort to problem solve that, we actually opened up our own warehouse, which is called the Loading Dock Supply Company.
The loading dock
And
supply
we
company.
actually, yeah, we house 450 SKUs of material there. So what happened was we essentially built a piece of tech that allows our maintenance guys to go online. It allows them to buy what they need out of the warehouse online. And then when they check out, it gives them an understanding of when they can come to the warehouse to pick up their order. And then when they get there, the picker's already pulled it and it's ready and available. Not to mention the fact that we've chosen a location for our warehouse that is within 10 minutes of 90% of our rental
Oh, so this is
properties.
like smack dab in the middle kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It creates
Wow.
convenience, efficiency, it mitigates guys shopping the aisles. It has honestly also really reduced decision fatigue because if you leave your vendor or your technician to pick a tile, you might say white. Well,
Yeah,
great.
what kind of
There
white?
can be,
Yeah.
yeah, there can be five different subway tiles there. There can be, one with grooves, one that's longer, the smaller pieces, the little tiny ones. And then they just get decision fatigue and there they are aisle shopping when you're like, why the heck is this taking so long? Well, there's these five different kinds of this or these three different kinds of that. We intentionally at the loading dock supply company have gone out of our way to house specific materials. We have two colors of wall paint. We have shoreline gray and Sandringham beige, and that's it. Those are the only two wall colors. Of course, we have white and semi-gloss white and stuff for ceilings, but that's it for color. And that way, if you're doing a gray scheme, this is the color. If you're doing a beige scheme, this is the color. And it really reduces the decision fatigue that I think that vendors get into a lot.
Right.
And I think it can be of a negative consequence to property owners when they're expecting something and then they don't always get what they receive. One time, it was a long time ago, but I had asked a couple of guys they were going to paint an apartment for me, and they said, "What color?" And I said, "Like, just pick a beige color." And then when I got there, I was like, "Why is this apartment pink?"
Oh
And they
no.
were like, "What? This isn't pink." And I was like, "This is pink." And then they showed me the code on the paint can, which was called tippy taupe.
Oh,
So they picked what they thought was like a beige, and I'm like, this is literally pink. So bad that I was like, I do not actually think we can keep it like this. Like it was so bad. So again, you learn these lessons as you go through, and then you start to standardize things to create efficiencies and ease within the business. And then in the end, we were able to fork off and actually have that separate building supply company serve our core business. But really, they're serving our client base more than they're serving Marta. They're serving
mhm.
the owner that's paying. Because if the owner is paying by the hour and they don't need to pay someone to aisle shop or to
Yeah.
make a bunch of decisions and debate what they should do or to chat with the guy at the pro desk or whatever else. Not to mention, Home Depot here in Windsor, there's one on the south side, there's one on the far east side. There's not that much in that regard that's central to rental properties. So that's
Hmm.
definitely sets us apart from other property managers for sure.
Wow. Is there any potential? I think I might have overheard you mention it before about this company, but white labeling it and offering it to other people as well. And
Yep.
in that way, I guess not only does it generate income for yourself or revenue and help your own clients, but can help other people out too.
Yep, we're totally looking at white labeling so that we can serve other property investors, other property management companies, and ultimately being able to serve not necessarily the greater public, but strategic partners in our industry that are local to Windsor, Essex, so that we
Mhm.
can share the favorable pricing that we're getting by buying in bulk, as well as, favorable location and rapid service for sure.
You definitely have some buying power this way too, being that big of a
For
market
sure.
cap, and then and having
Definitely,
the
definitely.
warehouse now too, that probably makes other vendors more willing to give you all this stuff for at a nice bulk price.
Definitely.
Yeah,
So if there is anyone out there that is interested in a strategic partnership in using the loading dock supply company, please send me a DM. I'd be more than happy to have a conversation for sure.
definitely. And we'll put all your contact information in here too, so everyone knows where to find you. And actually,
That is
you can
great.
see too, just as we keep talking, Marla's Instagram handles right here, and obviously we're connected here on Facebook, so you can find her there as well. Um, but you mentioned that you have the loading dock and you have all these other companies. How do you
Mhm.
handle juggling all of that? What's your day to day look like? What are you kind of, or what are you offloading? Like, how do you delegate or manage these sort of things?
So for a lot of years, I worked in the day-to-day operations of Marda, which is the core business. But a year and a half ago, I stepped away from that day-to-day business. I decided that, spending my time focusing on what sometimes could be, a small task and sometimes could be a much bigger task, but those were all getting mixed together and I was just doing the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. It became really difficult to differentiate where I should spend my time.
Hmm.
So I decided a year and a half ago to step out of the day-to-day operation of Marda. We promoted someone, Judy Cake, who runs Marda for us now. She's doing an absolutely fantastic job. She's outstripping our expectations, absolutely.
Amazing.
And it's really given us the gift of an opportunity to be able to focus on collaboration of these businesses together, because that alone does take some work, figuring out, how to really cultivate a culture among companies and among leaders is important. Really determining, working toward what are the requirements for these leaders. I want to make sure that anyone we partner with or anyone that runs any of our businesses understands what an income statement and a balance sheet are. And let's be honest, not everyone does. So, really sussing through some of the requirements and then doing some of that training myself has been really beneficial, creating a culture of we together, regardless of business, if they're under our Winfield Victoria umbrella, has been really important. And honestly, I've really started to work with other businesses to do some consulting, some one-on-one business coaching. People in the real estate space, are coming to me as they're trying to build their portfolio, figure out what their next steps are, because that is a business in and of itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're building a real estate portfolio, whether you work a traditional 9 to 5 job somewhere or you're a full-time real estate investor, that essentially is a business if that is your chosen business. So I'm really working with different real estate investors as well as business owners to figure out how do they streamline things and be able to get things to a level that will allow them to leave the day-to-day operations. Because the problem with day-to-day is you start to confuse $20 an hour jobs with $500 an hour jobs, and it all becomes one pile. So, being in that day to day can be really difficult and is not necessarily using you at your highest and best use and your highest and best contribution to your empire. So, I'm really working with people, like I say, on a one on one basis and on a business consulting basis to try to help them collapse decades into days and share with them the things that I've learned over the last 15 years in our businesses and its growth to be able to really put the power in their hands to be able to do some of the things that I've been able to do as well and to achieve their own goals, whatever those might be.
Mm. I know this might be more of a nuanced question, but I know a lot of people want to improve as leaders, myself included, and people want to be more successful entrepreneurs. Maybe do you have any high level examples of how you can collapse decades into days, or how they can delegate things, or how they can actually move those big levers as opposed to getting lost in the weeds?
So, a few of the key things that I have found absolutely pivotal to my ability to evolve as a leader. Number one, say no more often.
Mm.
People always want to say yes to everything. Unfortunately, sometimes that develops into shiny object syndrome, and then you go down a rabbit hole and you're not focusing on the main thing. Make the main thing, and figure out how to ensure its strength and its foundation is solid. Because if its foundation isn't solid, then when things get difficult, it'll just wash away with this, like the sand if the tide comes in. So you really want to make the main thing the main thing. You want to say no way more often than you say yes. If
Mm.
if it's something that aligns with your end game and your goals 80%, then say yes. But if it's something that you just said yes to say yes to, then it's probably something you should consider rethinking. So number one is we all need to say no more. Number two is we need to conduct ourselves with confidence. The reality is we are not all top number one grade A performers with all the knowledge, right? We're
Right.
all learning and growing and evolving, and that's a reality for all of us. But if we can conduct ourselves in a way that exudes confidence, it will help build you up. It will help put you in a position of leadership, because you need to remember leaders see things faster and they see things further than other people. So,
Hmm. I like that. Yeah, faster and
yeah,
further.
absolutely. I can sometimes see things coming a mile away, and someone else I'm working with is like, what? I didn't like even contemplate that. But the reality is leaders, and leaders are often, all at different levels, but leaders often will be able to see further faster. So you need to really take that for what it is and make sure you parlay that into the confident characteristics that are necessary to convey it, because it's very hard to convince someone of something you can see that's further and faster than they can see if they can't even see it or they're not even aware that it's there.
Mm.
So you need to exude that confidence into, and into really parlaying that so that you can convince them that, hey, I see something that you may not see. We need to take this under advisement and use it to our benefit and to our advantage when we're going forward in business. So, number one, say no more. Number two, exude confidence and recognize that leaders see further faster.
Mm.
And then number three, I would say know when to grind and know when to halt. And what I mean by that is everybody has a season, if you're a business owner or you're trying to build a business or real estate portfolio, when you have to grind and you have to hustle.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody has a season when they no longer have to do that. It's very hard to recognize when you need to gas it and when you can let off. And a lot of times, what happens as business owners or entrepreneurs or real estate professionals is we tend to hustle, 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 go, 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 go all the time. And then we're doing that so diligently and so fiercely that we don't even see the opportunity in front of us to take our foot off the gas. And,
Interesting.
there are different ways to take your foot off the gas. Sometimes for people, that's delegating the day-to-day operations of something and moving to another business. Because remember, all businesses, especially if you're not running the day-to-day, are income producing assets, right?
Right.
Income producing assets are wonderful things to have. That's what helps us build wealth. Changing our time for money is very difficult to use as a catalyst to building wealth. So we need to find a way to have these income producing assets. But a lot of times, business owners and entrepreneurs get so ingrained in the day-to-day hustle of
It's
just
like the
getting
hustle
it done.
culture. I wake up at 4 a.m. and I'm grinding
Totally.
24/7. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You get a little bit lost in it. And to be honest, so did I.
Mm.
That's why I
Interesting.
didn't, I was in my business for 15 years. I probably could have gotten out of it 5 years ago. But it wasn't something that I was necessarily aware of because, of course, we always hear you don't know what you don't know,
Mm.
right? You've heard this, of course.
Yep.
But what's interesting about that is we know what we don't know. For example, I know that I don't know how to fly an airplane. Yes. I know that I don't know how to do brain surgery. Yes. But then there's this other component of you don't know what you don't know, which is that there's no awareness. You
Mm.
don't even know it's out there. You don't even understand that it exists. And for a lot of business owners, and for myself included, for a long time, it wasn't in my level of awareness to even realize that I could exit the day to day. I just thought this is how it was. And I loved it, by the way. I loved the hustle. I loved the grind. I
Clearly,
was
if you've
the
been doing
person
it
who,
for what, 10, 15
yeah,
years before you kind of let the
well,
reins off.
yeah, I felt like I was winning every day. It was a good life. Me and my husband worked together hand in hand, and that was really fun. So, for me and for us, I just thought that was what it was going to be. I'm the person who goes to the bathroom when we're out for dinner, just like send a couple more emails, right? Like,
Yeah.
so being part of that hustle and part of that grind is really something that's been ingrained in me. But I had to stop and recognize that, hey, there might be more to this.
Mm.
I might not actually have to be the person who goes to Best Buy and buys a computer and gets it set up the night before a new staff member starts. I may not need to be the person that says, oh, that address keys are on a blue tag in the upper right corner. Like that doesn't need to be me,
Yep.
And once I really understood that, it gave me a true opportunity to live a little bit more of the good life.
Was there any catalyst that made you realize you had to let the reins go, or was it just kind of
Definitely.
organic? How'd you figure out that you needed to kind of start delegating and releasing some of this your power here?
So in 2021, we hired our first ever business coach.
Hmm.
We weren't even aware that coaching was a thing. We weren't even aware that this was out there. So we hired our first business coach, and he made us aware of the fact that this doesn't need to be forever. You don't need to be the person to do all of the day to day. You don't need to be the 24/7 emergency contact all the time. And so he really brought that to our awareness in the first place. And then, we kind of worked through a little bit of that over a couple of years in terms of figuring out how to delegate, getting our head around it, and not to mention, you only learn and hear things when you're ready to. So,
Mm.
While he'd been telling us that since 2021, we were pretty
Bit
pretty
stubborn.
ingrained still, but it took some time.
Right.
But we just said, you know what, let's try. We started by just backing away for 1 month. We wanted to create a test for our core company, thinking that it would probably show some of the cracks or some of the things that needed to be cross trained. or some of the ways that the business was so reliant on us that no one else could do it.
Yep.
So we did that for a 1 month period. And that month really gave us a little bit of a taste of what I call the good life, which is our ability to be more flexible with our time, to essentially buy our time back, to go to the gym when we wanted to walk our daughter to and from school every day, to do the things we really wanted to prioritize but never thought we could.
Yep.
And when we saw that the business was like reasonably okay for that month, although it definitely identified some things that we had to cross train on and delegate and kind of re-up with our staff. I just said, I'm never going back. It just doesn't make sense for me to spend my time. I'm not in my true zone of genius doing day-to-day operations, but I am in my true zone of genius being able to talk to business owners, entrepreneurs, real estate professionals about how to build their portfolio and how to grow their company.
Yeah, I like what you said. You're realizing your true genius and what you're best at. Sometimes it takes people longer than others, but I'm glad you found it finally. I'm still working on that myself, figuring out what's what. But that's why you have people like yourself to coach me and to be speaking at events and just imparting your knowledge to others. Because after all that experience in the real estate game, like you definitely have things to share and things of value for other people to listen to.
Thank you.
And I you'll see here in the description, actually, we have an event link to Eventbrite. Marla has a speaking event. It's a big one called, I believe, Business on Light Your Business on Fire. So I think you've already done some other speaking engagements. You have some other Zooms, and you spoke at our meetup. But this is another direction that you're taking in addition to coaching is public speaking. So maybe you can elaborate on that and kind of explain where your head's at and what you hope to achieve by stepping on stages, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. So yeah, definitely been taking the opportunity to do some more public speaking. I spoke at a retreat event in Denver last week. It was absolutely fabulous for an organization that I'm part of called the Final Percent. Absolutely wonderful group of people, wonderful community, absolutely love them. It was a great experience, and we've decided that we're going to run our own event. It's next Saturday. That's the one, Tom, you were referring to there,
Mm-hmm.
called Light Your Business on Fire. It's next Saturday at Spago, South Windsor from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. It is a business development event and is applicable to small business owners, medium business owners, and real estate investors who are looking to grow their portfolio, essentially creating a business out of it. I'm going to be speaking there. We have Chris Hanna from All In Content that's going to be speaking. We also have Tim Hodges from Hub Insurance there to speak. We're going to be doing some business road mapping and really looking at how can we get ourselves to a point where we're making what we want to make, we're enjoying the good life, and we're really exemplifying our businesses to a point where we're really satisfied with them being income producing assets for us and not just a job. A lot of us go day to day to a job. And you know, for some of us, that's an actual 9 to 5 job where we work for somebody else. But in a lot of cases, we've created our own business. We say we're an entrepreneur, but really we've created a job for ourselves and we're a technician. So we really need to consider, is that what we want to be doing? And if it's not, then we need to really map out, how do we get out of doing all of the day-to-day ourselves, or being someone that, hey, when I retire, my business is no more because it's really me and me.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that we all need to consider and grapple with. We have some great businesses that are going to be in the room. We have everyone coming from roofing companies to other property management companies
You got a
to
lot of vendors.
A lot of vendors, all of the above. We've offered it to all of the Windsor Chamber of Commerce members. So
Oh, wow.
there's going to be a lot of great people in the room. And I think it's a great opportunity to learn how you can either level up your own business or really create a business out of your intended real estate portfolio. Because like I said, that's really what it is. It's a business and it should be run like one.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to that event myself. I really am, because I could always use some leveling up and a new frame of mind. And I think what really attracts me to this as well, besides you speaking there, is the fact that there's many people to network with as well who are going to have a lot of value in various stages of their careers or their businesses. So I really encourage, and I've mentioned this already to a lot of my friends, come out and so even two of my contractors said, come out, check this out, sign up and it's only part of a day. You should definitely show up. Yeah, it's
Part of the
definitely
day
gonna
is
be worth it.
Yep, it's at Spago. It's going to be a great lunch. You can use the coupon code Marla if you want to buy your ticket on the Eventbrite link. It'll give you 50% off. So it's really going to be a great day. I think it's going to be more than worth your time if you can join. So I know, Tom, you're going to be there and we're looking forward to it. There's going to be lots of people there.
Yep.
So if you can come out, definitely tap the link and get your ticket, as we are trying to narrow down our number for the caterer. And like I say, we really hope to see you there. I think it's going to be really beneficial for people.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure it's posted in the description here so you guys have it, and then um, I'll also repost it on my story. So if you guys need to, then you can find it easily there. I guess Marla, what else do you see in the future besides this event? Because I know this is like the main thing going on. Do you see yourself going more full time into the coaching, into the business development space? Because I think this seems like one of the major passions of yours right now.
There's no question that I really feel how I can benefit other people the most is by imparting some of the things that I've learned over the last 15 years
Hmm.
by helping them collapse decades into days. If someone had told me, some of the mistakes that they made sooner, I think that there are a lot of things I could have dodged along the way. I could have collapsed time a little bit more effectively and ultimately scaled with more speed. That's the thing, right? We all want to scale to some degree, but doing so with speed is really tough to do. So being able to take the wisdom of someone who's done it with multiple businesses, done it multiple times over, done it with a real estate portfolio can be really valuable. So I feel really drawn to help share that knowledge and wisdom with people so that they can grow their own business, their own portfolio, put themselves in a position where they can live a little bit more of the good life and a little bit less of the hustle life, which is a process. But
Takes time.
ultimately,
Yeah.
getting with the people that can help guide that is definitely the ticket, in my opinion.
Definitely. And I appreciate too the fact that you've actually done the things that you're trying to coach people on. There are a lot of
Yeah.
gurus out there, and I'm not trying to butter you up, but it's true. There's a lot of people out there who say you got to do this, this, and this, but then you actually look at their track record of what they've done, and they've either
Yeah.
done nothing or they did, but it's been like 20 years ago where they, and they
Yeah.
have been one of those people like back to the earlier conversation, they've stagnated. So you're
Yeah.
currently doing it and you have done it. So I think that's really valuable, and another reason that people need to come this not this weekend, but the weekend next, the 28th.
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yep, September 28th. Awesome. We'd love to see you all out there. It'd be great for sure.
yeah, definitely. And I guess, is there anything else you want to say, Marla? Anything that we didn't cover? Anything that you like to impart to the folks? Uh, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I really just want to share that I am confident that if you have a business, are desiring to have a business, or have a real estate portfolio, or are trying to grow one, you are in the wheelhouse of someone that I can really speak to and can really help and support. Please check out my website, marlacoffin.com. You can DM me. I'm at Marla Coffin on Instagram, or of course, you can send me a message on Facebook. I would love to see how we might have an opportunity to work together, or I'd love to see you out at next Saturday's event. I really think that we all need to level up a little bit more. I think that's true for all of us. And if going to an event where we're in a room with 50 business owners and a few great speakers, I think is literally the smallest step you can take to leveling up. So let's do it. Let's have some great food at Spago and enjoy each other's company. I'd love to have you out there. And if I can help you in any other way, please don't hesitate to send me a DM.
Awesome. Looking forward to that myself. And Marla, thanks so much for tonight. I appreciate your time because I know you're a busy
Yeah,
woman. So everyone,
thank you.
thank you for joining and viewing this. And if you view this in the future, thank you as well. And we'll sign up for now. And then again, find Marla at all those locations, marla.com, marlacoffin.com, and all her handles that we'll post here. And have a good
Thank you so
evening.
much.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me, Tom. I appreciate
No
it.
problem. Take care,
Great
everyone.
evening. Thanks so
Bye.
much. Bye bye.